Welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle D, or Coach Danni D, and I help women to create luxury brands by creating processes and tightening their branding. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease and enjoy your life. My happy space is spending as much time as humanly possible in my pajamas. And I want to help others to find their happy space while still running profitable businesses. So get comfortable and let's dig in. Hello and welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I am your host, Coach Danni D, and I am here to help you navigate the world of business life, just trying to figure out how to have that balance, make sure that you are having a life that is fulfilled and also successful. So, today I want to talk to you about something I been kind of thinking about a little bit, and that is how willing are you to be vulnerable? How willing are you to be vulnerable? So, as you guys know, I have a capable and confident challenge that is coming up. And it is really focused on the parts of imposter syndrome that keep us stuck and keep us from being able to grow, keep us from being able to live and move confidently in our purpose, in our businesses, in our lives. Because, we're in our heads, right? We're in our heads, and that's keeping us from making that progress. And one part of how that holds us back, because sometimes we don't realize that, not only is this, playing mind games with us, but it's holding us back. It's keeping us from being the best version of ourselves, being the most successful version of ourselves. Because when we have that doubt, when we, are fearful of being vulnerable, then we are not playing full out. We're not putting everything that we are capable of putting on the table, because that self-doubt stops us. That self-doubt says, but what if it fails? That self-doubt says, well, maybe I'm not as talented as the next person. That self-doubt says that I can stay at this level, but I'm not ready for the next level. So I want to talk about how vulnerability plays into that, or the hesitance to be vulnerable, because we don't want to be seen as weak. We don't want to be seen as less than. We may walk into spaces and feel as though we're not as good as the other people in the room, and we don't want to open our mouths and confirm that, right? We want to keep this illusion going that we feel that we have to create. So let's talk about vulnerability. The reason why vulnerability is important is you have to be open to receive. You have to be open to receive. And sometimes we may feel like we're open, but we are cracking the door, or we're standing in the doorway. We're peeking out of the blinds or the curtains, but we're not actually open. And so let me give an example. So think about when you are attending, let's say you go to a workshop, or you sign up for a program, and you're there, or you may follow somebody on social media. It might be me. You are there, and you're getting all of the content that you can get from in the shadows. And you may be learning a lot of things, but here's the catcher. You have additional questions. You have some things that maybe you've heard, but you don't really understand. You have some things that once you try to do these things, you're getting stuck on. But you don't want anybody to know. So you just either push it to the side or try to keep figuring it out. But you're never going to get that full answer until you ask the question, until you say, you know what? I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand what was just said. I don't know how to implement this. I don't know what the next steps are. I'm, you know, in this concept, I'm in over my head, right? That's not to say that you're not capable. That's not to say that you don't know a lot of things. Nobody knows everything. Nobody does. Nobody knows everything. And the more open you are and the more of a continual learner you are, the better you become. But again, you have to be open. You have to open that door. You have to raise that hand. You have to ask that question. You have to reach out for help. You have to sign up for the thing. You have to lean on those that are stronger at something than you. That does not make you weak. That actually makes you much stronger. It makes you much stronger because you are open enough to say, I don't know. I know someone who does. And I'm going to reach out to them and I'm going to allow them to help me. And I'm not going to resist because I want to touch that point too, because there's that vulnerability of, you know, we may even raise our hands for the help, but then we're resisting it because it makes us feel uncomfortable. It makes us feel like, that fraud feeling like I should know this. You know what I'm saying? But you really there's nothing that you should know except the things that you already know. There's things that you may need to know to grow, right? But it's not that you should know. You can't know it until you open yourself up to learn it. So when you go to that class and you're sitting there and it doesn't make sense, raise your hand. I promise you it don't make sense to somebody else that's sitting there too. It might make sense to a couple of people in the class. It may be a whole class of people that just are like, I don't know what the H they talking about. I don't know. But nobody wants to say it because nobody wants to look like they're that lone person that doesn't know. You're not alone. Somebody else doesn't know the answer. Or you are walking around half there, not because you can't be wholly there, but because you don't want to ask the question, so you just keep walking around carrying that question or carrying that lack because you don't want to ask the question because you don't want to look a certain way. And I see it show up in all stages. And I've experienced it personally in all stages. So in the beginning, you walk into a room and you are new in the room and you have that feeling that everybody in this room knows what's going on and I have no clue. And I don't want them to think I don't belong because I already feel like on the inside I don't belong. And I don't want anybody to pick up on that. So I'm going to just be quiet and I'm not going to ask any questions, and I'm just going to sit in the background. And to be fair, there is some benefit of taking things in. I am an observer. I like to read the room and, listen. And because sometimes we don't learn because we're not quiet and we don't listen. But sometimes it's just that we don't want to say, wait, I don't get it. And you might be one step, one sentence away from fully understanding, if you raise your hand and ask that question and have that person explain it a little bit differently, that may be a thing that kicks off and takes you to another level. But there may also be another person in that room. Like I said, this happens at all phases. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're excluded from this. You may be the person in the room. You've been doing this for a little while. You're not the newbie anymore. You've been doing it for a while. You figured out some things, you got things going, but there's still areas that you're not 100% sure and you're getting nuggets here and there, but it's time for you to really get the full picture. But now you've been doing this for a while. You don't want anybody to think, oh, she don't know that. Man, she been doing this for a minute. She don't know that. Guess what? There are people sitting next to you that have been doing it for a very long time and they don't know either. Or they might know this thing, but they don't know that thing. There's always more to learn. Don't feel like, don't, let me say this, don't block your growth potential because you're worried about what someone's going to think about you. I'm going to say that again. Don't block your growth potential because you're worried about what someone's going to think about you. Here's the thing, the person that's willing to be vulnerable, the person that's willing to be open, the person that's willing to ask the question and let go of whatever it is that is making you feel like an imposter, that person is going to go further. That person is going to absorb more. That person is going to continue to accelerate and grow. So by the time you have a chance to find out what somebody else thought about you because you asked whatever question it was, because you took whatever step that it was. By time that person does that, you're gonna be on a whole nother level. They talking about somebody that don't even exist anymore because you've been fed, you've grown, and you're going to be a whole different person, a whole different level, and you're going to be more fulfilled because you know what's going on, because you are willing to be open, you're willing to be vulnerable, and not just that, you're going to create an example for others around you. So now you're not only are you opening up? Not only are you letting in what you need to let in, but you are changing the scope of the room. Because we don't know if the room is really not receptive or if it was just how you felt on the inside. You felt like, everybody else was together but you. And so because of that, you felt like, you know, you were out of place in that room. We don't know if it's that you felt out of place because you were out of place or because you carried that energy, right? It's probably because you carried that energy, but we don't know that. But what we do know is when you come into that space and when you're willing to be vulnerable and when you're willing to say, you know what, I've been doing this wrong for 20 years, but I'm trying to learn today. When you're willing to be that person in a room, not only are you opening yourself up, but you're opening the room up. You're changing the scope of the room. You're changing the scope of what is happening around you because now you made it that much easier for that person that walked in like you as a newbie and didn't feel comfortable asking a question. Now you're making it a space of openness, vulnerability. And I'm a big believer that a lot of the things that we struggle with are made worse by the fact that we feel like we're the only one experiencing it. We're the only one struggling with it. And so we're in the back corners and in back rooms trying to figure it out and feeling some sort of way when we could be together having conversations and coming to resolution and solution because Those answers are around you, but you can't get them if you're not going to raise your hand and ask. You're not going to get them if you're not going to raise your hand and ask. You're not going to get them if you're not able to step forward. And that is honestly the bravest thing that you can do. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. That is one of the bravest things you can do is stand up and say, you know what? I don't know. And I know I need to know. So I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to put myself in a position to learn. So I want you to think about that when you enter spaces. Stop worrying about what you look like to others. Stop worrying about what they're going to think about you and start thinking about, how do I get the most out of this situation? How do I make sure that I am being fed? I am getting what I need to go to that next level. Because when you do that and when you execute upon that, then those people around you, what they're going to see is the strength of someone who is brave enough to be vulnerable and who then took that bravery, added a little confidence to it, added some consistency to it, and was successful. That's what they're going to see. Nobody is looking at someone who's successful and seeing, oh well, they ask this one question at a time. They nobody I mean, if they are, their priorities are messed up and you shouldn't really be concerned about what they think, right? So I really want you to start focusing on learning how to be more vulnerable, learning how to open yourself up for the help that you need, the information that you need, the explanation that you need to get you to that next level, the mindset growth that you need. A lot of times that's where all of it resides is in that mind, that the whole, thing about imposter syndrome is in your mind. So I want you to really think about that. I want you to start being more open in that way. And, one of the ways that I'm going to throw out there, a little bit of a shameless plug, but it's just true. Uh, Join this challenge, join this imposter challenge, because we're going to talk about why is it that you feel that way? Why is it that you're hesitating? Why is it that you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable? Let's work through that, like at the core, because often we will look at the surface, we'll hear the latest trend or tips or what have you, but we're not getting to the core. And so it resonates for a little while and then we revert back. So let's get to the core. Why am I so nervous about this? Why do I feel like, you know, people are going to view me in this way? Why do I care? Those are all important questions. And we are going to walk through that. And then we're going to create alternative narratives. So, why do I feel like that? Now, what can we do to fix that? And I don't want you to feel like, oh, if I'm in this, people are going to be thinking, back to this thinking, right? That, now I'm exposing myself as somebody who doesn't know. It's not an exposure. Again, it's a step of strength. It's a step of strength. I've talked to people who are at the top of their game, who are, brilliant, successful people, and they still have this feeling of fraud, this feeling of imposter. And that's not because they're not good at what they do, it's because there's some mindset stuff that needs to shift. So let's shift it. I mean, nobody likes feeling like that, right? So let's shift it. Let's work on it. Let's get it together so that we can continue to focus in that confidence space, so that we start talking to ourselves differently, so that we start encouraging ourselves differently, because we have to be able to do it for ourselves because nobody else is in there. When we're having all of those crazy thoughts, nobody else is in there. So we have to be able to identify it and then flip the script. So that's the beauty of this challenge because I want people to walk in their confident self. I know that I have to remind myself when I feel that, those little mind gremlins creeping in. I have to remind myself, hey, wait, 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 wait. Let's go back. Let's get back into confidence. Let's put her back in the driver's seat. So that's what the challenge is about. The challenge is starting on June 1st. I'm so excited about this one because I just, I see so many brilliant women, and I want to help them to see themselves the way that we see them from the outside. Because often, you see all of this greatness, and then once you start talking, you hear that it's not connecting on the inside. And I want to make that connection for people so that they can see the greatness of themselves and walk in that, because we all have a purpose. We all have something that we're here and we're called to do. And if we're not walking in that and doing that thing, then there's some people that are sitting there waiting, that aren't being served, that need us for whatever reason. And, I know some of you may say, well, I'm not a coach, or I'm not a this, or I'm not a that. There is someone, there are someones that are watching you, following you, that are inspired by you, that admire you, and you are someone's blueprint. You're someone's um, reason to believe that they can. So I know that sometimes that can sound weighty, but at the end of the day, there are people that are watching you and saying to themselves, if she can do it, I can do it. So we got to do it. We got to do it. We have to walk in our purpose so that we can change the scope of the room. Okay, I'm gonna leave you guys. I will see you next week. I'm gonna put the link to the challenge in the show notes. I want to see you guys in this room because I want to again connect those dots. I want you to see yourself as the brilliant self that I see you as, that your friends see you as, that your colleagues see you as. I want you to feel it, not just see it. We can write it on paper, but I want you to feel it from the inside. I want you to know that you that chick. All right. Y'all have a good week. Thank you for listening to the Prophets in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with ease. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram. For more information about building your luxury brand, register for my upcoming luxury brand workshop at CoachDanniD.com.